You already talked to 2 other people?
I have one other person, and I don't want to burn.
So,
You get what I'm saying? I don't want to burn it.
so talk to Mike.
I've been talking to Mike.
So talk to Mike
Mm-hmm.
and get him to talk to us.
Gotcha. Okay. That's the workaround.
Yeah, because we're not talking directly to each other.
I got you. Don and I are working on something. Mike has asked for a little bit of time to, him and his staff are looking at a couple things for it, but I can do that.
He usually tells me whatever's going on. I haven't.
Well, I think he's probably worried about,
Optics?
well, no, about the walking quorum.
He would talk to me about it. He can do that. Mike can.
Oh, you're saying Mike hasn't talked to you about it? It's about crime control. So it's very pertinent for tonight.
Well, I don't count towards the quorum on that. I'm not a member.
Okay. Well, you know, what we fund out of crime control, SROs, or half of them now. If I say this to you, you feel like we're pretty good?
What do you?
Like, the main thing is, I want to fund 100% of the SROs.
Oh,
Hey, how's it going? Hey, y'all.
Hey, what's up, man?
hi.
How is it going?
Well, pretty good.
I see your barbecue. Barbecue hounds get here early.
You better believe I pulled up a chair.
So-
Yeah, I know.
Jim, I had my annual dermatology visit today.
Ooh, hope it went well.
We did. I was there, you know, while he was inspecting. He goes, "What's that?" I said, "Well, I almost cut my finger off there." And he said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, that was a well burn." "What's that?" "Well, that was a well splatter." "What's that?" "Well, that was where." He said, "What in the heck were you doing?" I said, "I was refurbishing a barbecue grill."
Oh,
And I literally almost cut my finger off doing it.
yikes. Yeah, I had a little accident with a chainsaw.
It wasn't a chainsaw, it was a grinder.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta be careful. We don't heal as
Fast.
quickly as we used to, you know?
Why are you doing that? You're setting a precedent for the future.
So the caveat would be,
5 years.
the caveat is, we analyze it in the budget every year.
Yeah, but you tell them. It's not a bad, it's not bad. It's worth the discussion.
Yeah. And right now, we're the school district, what they're dealing with.
We're cash flush.
Exactly. We feel like it's something.
Just like, I would love to take some of our spare cash and bring a show to the art center, to the
Oh. Like a big one?
quarterly. Like the Coppells,
Mm-hmm.
do that quarterly instead of yearly. This is not very good barbecue.
Very dry.
You got a different, you have to look, there were 2 different types of barbecue. That is a close pour,
Mm-hmm.
so I always get the open pour because it tends to be moister.
Yeah. This is dry.
Mine's not dry, but it just doesn't have any flavor.
Where's this from, Dickies?
I thought they said hard 8.
No extra napkins, huh?
Just in the
Never a good
little,
sign, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
get the cardboard one, like, doesn't actually absorb anything, or,
Right.
it's for looks.
So did you move because you're pro tem?
Um,
Or is that gonna be your chair?
so, Brianna's not gonna be here, but she is
Technically, Mark is. Yeah, Brianna was reelected in 2015 and Mark was 2014.
Wow.
So you got Mark who always picks that chair, Brianna
furniture back in after the pandemic? Remember we're walking in, there wasn't even I guess they have.
Oh, yeah.
But they're trying to renovate it. All right.
Well, good evening. It's 5:31. I will call this to order. Item number 1, call to order. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. The time is 5:31 p.m. We are here for the Crime Control and Prevention District regular session meeting of the City of Coppell, and there is a quorum present, so I will call the meeting to order. Item number 2 is citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak during citizens' appearance must sign the appropriate register outside of council chambers and list their address. Is there anyone who has signed up to speak? I see no one on the list. Anybody else? Would anybody like to speak? Therefore, we will go to item number 3, the introduction and history. I'll turn it over to Miss Jessica Almendarez, Budget Officer. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, CCPD Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. The Crime Control and Prevention District is a special purpose tax district created by Texas Code 363. It is designed to provide crime prevention programs and services to the community. This fund is primarily, the revenue source is a quarter-cent sales tax. It is the main source of revenue, whether you are a resident in the city of Coppell or you're just passing through. This sales tax you pay on purchases in the city of Coppell contribute to this fund. The Crime Control and Prevention District is created and authorized only if the district and sales tax are approved by a majority vote. And the qualified voters consider this a separate entity as governed by Local Government Code 363. The district is also governed by a board of 7 members, which is currently the voting members of the City of Coppell City Council. The board is required to propose a budget, is required to hold a public hearing, and to adopt a proposed budget that is then presented to the governing body, which is, again, the Coppell City Council. The Coppell Crime Control and Prevention District is being accounted for as a special revenue fund. And in the financial records of the city, a special revenue fund is one that is accounting for and reports the proceeds of specific revenue. The quarter-cent sales tax that is used for revenue in this fund is restricted or committed to expenditures for a specific purpose. And now I'll share a little history of the CCPD fund. The Coppell Crime Control and Prevention District was approved by voters in November of 2007 and became effective on April of 2008. The original term was for 5 years with an expiration of April of 2013. Next, citizens authorized the fund for a term of 10 years, and it expired in April of 2023. Most recently, in November of 2022, the citizens reauthorized the district for an additional 10 years with a new expiration date of April of 2033. For the district to continue, the next vote must take place in November of 2032. So this concludes a brief review of the history and a small introduction on the CCPD fund.
Thank you, Ms. Almendarez. Just for clarification, tonight we do have one board member who is absent, and we did have a board member that vacated his seat. Board member John vacated his seat when he stepped down. City Council will appoint a replacement for him at our next meeting. Item number 4, consider approval of minutes. You'll find in your packet a copy of the minutes for the meeting held June 13th, 2023. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Seconded by Board Member Nevels. All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 5, review of the Crime Control Prevention District budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. Ms. Almendarez.
First, we will review the revenues for the CCPD fund. The total Crime Control and Prevention District revenues are projected to be $4,975,501. 12.49% increase in sales tax revenue from fiscal year 25 proposed to fiscal year 24 adopted budget. Sales tax is the fund's primary source of revenue and is estimated to be $3,940,105, which is about 79.19% of the total revenues. The remaining revenue is provided by salary reimbursements from Coppell Independent School District for the school resource officers, and this is an amount of $735,836, or 14.78% of the revenue. And interest earnings are estimated at $300,000, or 6.03% of the proposed revenues. Next, we'll cover expenditures. The total crime control and prevention district expenditures are projected to be $5,764,866, which is a percentage of, that is the overall expenditure amount. The largest source of expenditures for that fund is going to be salary and benefits, which is $1,973,763, or 34.24% of the budgeted expenditures. This funds 15 positions related to the school resource officer program. Supplies are approximately $227,330, or 3.94% of the overall budget. Services total around $3,404,238, or 59.05% of the budget. And this does include a 5-year contract totaling $1,682,688 with Axon for body cameras, fleet cameras, tasers, maintenance, and user licenses, and other related costs. The fiscal year 2025 budget includes the full cost of the contract, and the process is to budget for the full amount of the contract. A purchase order would be created once the actual contract is approved by City Council, and each year there will be an annual payment of $336,538 will be made, with the remaining balance of the purchase order issued carried forward as an encumbrance carryover. Then the services category does also include a payment to the North Texas Communication Center, which is also known as NTEC, for dispatch services. This is a joint venture between the cities of Carrollton, Farmers Branch, and Addison. Also included in the contract is the City of Grapevine for jail services. Services also include a reimbursement to the general fund for administrative services. Administrative services reimbursements are part of the cost allocation study that provides reimbursements for services rendered from the general fund to CCPD. Because CCPD fund operates as a business and it doesn't staff positions such as IT, accounts payable, or legal services, it reimburses the general fund for those services. This is the 4th year of that cost allocation study, and we do conduct that every 3 to 4 years. And then the transfer category constitutes $159,535, or 2.77% of the overall expenditures. This transfer is the capital replacement fund for the annual transfer of the 1 year of useful life of a vehicle's purchased. Next, we have a fund balance walk forward, and this one is presented to you beginning with the actuals of fiscal year 23. The walk forward indicates that Rule 3.334 has not become effective yet. As such, we continue to budget as if it were in effect, just as a proactive strategy. And for fiscal year 25, the ending fund balance is projected to be $25,522,487. In summary, the proposed budgeted revenues for fiscal year 25 are $4,975,501, and the proposed budgeted expenditures are $5,764,866. Tonight, the CCPD board has the opportunity to hold a public hearing and vote to adopt the fiscal year 25 proposed budget for CCPD. So this concludes the review of the proposed fiscal year 25 budget for Crime Control and Prevention District. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Board, any questions, comments? Board Member Nevels.
Thank you, Mr. President. A quick question about the performance measures on, that's on that second page of our handout. It's more the safety and security initiatives. It went from NA to, and then in 24, 25, 125. Could you give me a little detail about that?
I'll defer that to Chief Barton or Sammy to provide a little bit of more information on that.
Hi, Deputy Chief.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. The reason for is since historically we had positions that were in the crime control, that were patrol, so we got rid of all the 911 phone calls, all the services, and so we started doing what we call the safety and security initiatives that the school resource officers do, such as lockdowns, fire drills, things to that nature that require the safety and security of all the schools. So that's why it changed.
All right. That's excellent. Is this just a new way that we're reporting it?
That's the new metrics that we're using to measure how the SROs police the schools.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that information. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Board Member Walker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, just two questions. On the interest income, the 6.06%. So are we investing the money when we get it from the state into an interest-bearing account, and that's why we're showing interest income?
Correct. So the funds are put into an account where it's invested. And currently, we saw an increase of the interest income coming in, and that's why you see that increase.
Okay, thank you. And then on the FY 2025 proposed budget summary, when I look at the difference between the actual and adopted numbers for revenues, is the delta between those two numbers like represent the difference between what we're receiving before 3.334 kicks in and what we're budgeting for based upon what we expect 3.334 would generate?
The difference between the revenue there was really the sales tax. Currently, we are budgeting very conservatively on it, but the difference that happened this year, we've added a 5% increase on the sales tax. We budgeted in that format, and also taking into account some of the information we're receiving from community development, since they are connected in tune with the businesses in the community.
Okay, so that delta doesn't represent any different treatment between the pre and post 3.334
Correct.
regime? Okay, thank you so much.
Board Member Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had an opening of, I believe, 8 school resource officer. Are they all budgeted in the crime control budget?
Correct. We are budgeting for even the vacant positions.
What's the status on those?
And I'll defer that to our Deputy Chief.
At this time, we're currently recruiting individuals. We hadn't had a final decision on how many are going to go this year or next year. So it's in the works. It's in the process.
So how are we accommodating the needs of the school at this point?
At this point, we're not, so far we haven't been able to put anybody in the schools. Hopefully, come next year, we should be able to fill most of the schools. Right now, we're just recruiting individuals for the police department, and then we'll decide who goes to the school later on during the year. We're trying to get placement at all the schools as soon as we can.
So that means by August, when school opens, we won't have anybody available to be sourced at the school?
We're working on that scenario right now with individuals. We have a lot of individuals that are recruits that are in the academy, but at this point, we will have some individuals at the school, but we don't know how many.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. We will move to item number 6. This is a public hearing. For the proposed budget, persons wishing to speak during the public hearing must sign the register and list their address. You will be called to speak in order you have registered. Public hearing speeches are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. So I will open this public hearing for anyone that would like to speak. I see no one on the list. Anybody else? Anybody would like to speak during the public hearing? If not, I will entertain a motion. Board Member Nevels?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to close the public hearing for agenda item 6.
Board Member Hill will second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Matthew and Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, adoption of the fiscal year budget for the Crime Control and Prevention District. I will entertain a motion. Board Member Walker.
Mr. President, I go ahead and move for the adoption of the fiscal year 24-25 budget for the Crime Control and Prevention District.
Thank you. Board Member Nevels will second it. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor?
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Matthew, Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 8, review of the budget calendar for the Crime Control and Prevention District. Ms. Almaderas, one more time.
Now I'll do a quick review of the budget calendar coming out for CCPD. So the next important date in terms of CCPD calendar will be July 15th, when we will hold the budget workshop, which would include all the special revenue funds, including CCPD fund. Then the next important day would be August the 17th, where we will put out a notice in the newspaper that we will hold a public hearing during the scheduled meeting as an overall governing body. Lastly, on August the 27th, the City Council will hold a public hearing during its scheduled meeting as the overall governing body, and also there's a schedule to adopt the annual operating budget for the city, including the CCPD fund as well. And that concludes the review of the CCPD calendar.
Thank you. Any questions about the calendar? Thank you very much. Item number 9, consider election of president and vice president. So I will entertain nominations for president.
I have a procedural question,
Okay.
Mr. President. This body has historically, has a rotation that we have done, and that rotation, I believe, would be Member Walker, and the vice president would be not a member of this board currently. So I just have a question procedurally, how you'd like to move forward, considering historically, this is how we've done this, at least since I've been on council.
The way I would recommend doing it, since we do have an open seat, I would recommend we just nominate someone else for vice president, or whichever office you want, but we just move ahead. We move ahead with the members that we have on the board, and we catch back up next year.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have to, if I understand correctly, where's Bob back there? Otherwise, we have to pull together this, if we would have to appoint somebody to the board and then call this board back together just to hold the election after the fact. So,
Correct.
is that correct? So from an administrative standpoint, I would say we'd not do that unless y'all disagree.
So do you have a recommendation for vice president? Should we start the circle back up towards the top?
That would be fine. I have a list here. I can't tell for sure. I mean, we have, like Mayor Mays was president for a couple of consecutive years. Board member Matthew was for 2 years in a row. I mean, there have been times we have deviated from just the rotation for
standard.
various reasons, COVID and whatever else. And Brianna, oh, that is a good point. Brianna apparently has never been president or vice president.
Oh, perfect.
In all
I'd
of-
like to make a motion, sir.
Okay, well, we need the election of president is first. Do I have nominations for president?
I'd like to nominate member Jim Walker.
Doesn't like me very much, does
He's not sure.
he? Thank you.
All right,
I second it.
okay. Any other nominations? Okay, well, we have Mr. Walker for president. All in favor?
No, I guess I vote for myself. Yeah.
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Matthew, Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Now I will entertain nominations for vice president. Board member Nevels.
I would love to nominate board member Brianna Hinojosa-Smith as vice president, as being voluntold in her absence, so.
Mr. Hill seconds. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to second it.
Any other nominations for vice president?
You need not be present to win.
Excellent advisement from our attorney.
She is watching out there.
Yeah,
Therefore, we have,
she's hitting her mute button really
I
hard.
know, Ms. Hinojosa Smith has been nominated for vice president. No other nominations on the table. All in favor?
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. So the next meeting, president will be Mr. Walker, and vice president will be Ms. Hinojosa Smith. Thank you very much. Well, there being no other further business with the Crime Control and Prevention District, we are adjourned at 5:52 PM. Thank you very much.
Well, my wife would be a vampire if she had a choice. Like, she would just live in the dark. And I'm like, you know, I've got the house all wired up so I can talk to it. So I'm just saying, turn on all the lights. And she hates that. Well, I just don't like being in the dark in my house. Like, so I turn on all the lights, and my wife hates light. If it was up to her, she would live in a cocoon of 3 blankets and live on our couch with no lights on. Like the sensory deprivation pod? Yes. So she can't hear me. It's perfect. So we have a young couple that works for us. They run our Lantana school, husband and wife team. Remind me a lot of me and Amanda. So occasionally I try to, the young man in the relationship, I always try to remind him of the stuff that he's doing to annoy his wife. And so I was like, "Did you see that? That was a hint. You're annoying her. Please stop. You haven't learned yet. You just you haven't learned yet." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." You're a slow learner.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 5:56 PM. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We'll be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I will come out and announce that we are entering into work session, at which time the public will be invited and encouraged to attend. Thank you very much. Howdy, everybody. The time is 6:59 PM. We have adjourned from executive session, and we're moving into work session in the first floor conference room. The public is invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 7:02 PM. We're going to move into work session. We only have two agenda items. The first one is a discussion on the agenda items for the regular session. Does anybody have any questions or comments about our agenda doc?
I got one idea. I was just gonna show you, it's got the two things on it. Yeah.
Seeing none, we're going to move on. Item B is discussion regarding generators in residential areas. Mr. Schubert's going to walk us through this one. Just a little background, we've had a complaint from a citizen that it was asking for an agenda item, and staff, in preparation for that, went out and has done some surveys and some studies, and Steve is going to present that to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As stated, staff has asked for report presentation regarding residential backup generators and the noise they produce. These generators only engage when there is no power supplied by the preventer, so nobody has electricity, backup generator kicks in. This presentation is nice and short, just a 3-hour presentation, is to give an overview of backup generators and the regulations associated with them in Coppell and from our comparison municipalities.
What you need is to use your clicker. It should be.
Oh, hey, awesome. This image of the February 2021 freeze, commonly referred to as SNOVID, is courtesy of the Coppell student media. This freeze caused massive electrical outages all across the state, and in some places, it lasted for up to 2 weeks. The lack of power for such an extended period of time and such extreme temperatures was linked to significant losses and damages throughout North Texas. This sparked a drastic increase in residential generator installations. In the 5 years prior to the freeze, our municipality issued 32 residential generators. Since that freeze, just a little over 3 years, 114 permits have been issued.
I'm sorry, just, you said 32 prior to Uri? Like in the
In the
history
6
or
years,
whatever?
in the 6 years prior to SNOVID,
Okay.
we had 32. This list of average decibel levels is courtesy of Department of Defense website dedicated to preservation of hearing. It's called Hearing Center of Excellence. As you can see here, a gas lawnmower generates approximately 94 decibels. The same lawnmower at 10 feet away is about 73, roughly about the same as a Generac 25 kilowatt residential natural gas generator. That is the most common generator installed in our municipality. This page is from a recent permit submittal. The location of a backup generator on someone's property is a significant factor in the cost of the installation. Depending on the system, there are 3 or more wires from the generator to the panel. In this picture, that is represented by the red line. You got the generator down at the bottom, and that red line goes all the way up to their electrical meter and where they're going to put in the first means of disconnect. Those wires, on average, cost about $6 per linear foot. And there are probably 4 or more of those going all that way. So it runs up the cost significantly if someone tries to locate the generator even further away from the meter, tries to kick it back and further into the property. In this particular instance, they decided to try and keep it close to the gas meter. The cost for these installations provided on permit applications are anywhere from $10,000 to over $24,000. The cost being based on specific equipment and distances from the electrical connections and from the natural gas connection at field. Cost consideration certainly affects homeowners' decisions on where to place the generator on their property. By ordinance, residential backup generators are treated the same as any residential equipment, like your HVAC condensing unit outside your house, pool equipment, things of that nature. A couple of those requirements are that they cannot be located in the front yard, and they must be screened from view of the public way. On this plan, that generator would be visible from a public way. It's that little curvature on the far right. That would be the front sidewalk and everything. So it would have to be screened from public view, whether it's by a fence, shrubbery, what have you. After community development received an inquiry in December of 2023 regarding residential backup generators and the noise they produce, city staff performed a review of how our comparison cities are regulating generators. City staff also verified that those findings had not changed since December. It was verified as recently as Monday. Just as here in the city of Coppell, our comparison cities treat them the same as any residential equipment, with one exception. City of Carrollton has an ordinance amendment specifying that residential backup generators are exempt from their noise regulations. That's the only difference from any other municipality. This is a short video in which we have an opportunity to hear the noise level of a generator. The video does open up with some ambient noise, such as a leaf blower in the background, but it at least gives us a good idea for reference on the sound comparison. The model of generator in here is the same manufacturer as almost all the residential backup generators installed in our cities, so it gives us a pretty good idea of the sound to be expected.
I'm Dixie here with Trio Electric. I'm one of the project managers here, and I also handle all our generator sales and service. We're out here at home in Mount Pleasant. Just recently installed this generator. This is a 22 kW Generac Guardian Series generator. We installed quite a few generators, and coming up on hurricane season, we're starting to get busy. And one question I get asked a lot is how loud are they? And that's a very good question. We have some other noises around us here today, but I want you to hear what this thing sounds like as it runs. We'll go ahead and turn on the generator. There it is right there. As you can see, I controlled over top of this generator. Don't have too much trouble. They run about 70 decibels. This is almost 100% loaded, so this is as loud as the generator will ever get. When it does its exercise, it actually runs at a lower RPM and it's actually quieter. You can see it runs at a single RPM, stays the same the whole time. That gives you a good idea of what it's down. I'll go ahead and turn it off.
So, as stated in the video, the volume of that generator was at full load. That means it's running at full capacity, providing all the power it can possibly provide at one time. So, if somebody has this hooked up to their house, heat kicks on as electric heat, it's going to ramp up, it's going to kick in at full blast until the heater kicks off, then it'll drop back down to basically just idle speed. Now, for anyone interested in such a thing, there are options to be able to muffle the sound of a generator. However, the options to do so is limited. Such muffler housing is not something you can build yourself from materials available at Lowe's, Home Depot, or Ace Hardware. It has to be an actual listed assembly, which means that the manufacturer of the muffler system worked with the manufacturer in order to create something that would work with the equipment and prevent the equipment's warranty from being expired, or from the equipment experiencing critical heat failure, any manner of things. So this particular example, it's an exceedingly short video, but it at least provides us an example of the sound of the generator from before and the sound of the generator with the muffling system in there. The previous video, the camera was probably about 6 foot away from the generator. And in this video, you can see they're probably about 25, maybe 30 feet away from the generator, so it's a little bit further away. Before and after. Let's do that again. Before and after. So there is a recognizable difference in the noise level. Whether or not it's still, quiet enough to not be discernible from somebody else's property, I couldn't tell you. Now, one of the things that we want to make sure that everybody is aware of is, should anyone be inclined to pursue changes to our city ordinance for generators, it would not affect any of the generators that are currently in operation in our city. Anything that was previously reviewed, approved, and installed out on someone's property is going to remain exactly as it is until 30 years from now when they go to replace the equipment. So if someone is wanting to make changes, it would only affect anything that is permitted after the date that the ordinance is changed. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
So the question for us is very simple. Do we want to do it? Do you want to move forward with anything or not, or just let it? We have existing ordinances concerning the installation of generators. We have now sound ordinances. Kevin?
I would not like to change anything.
Thank you for your opinion.
Yeah, I don't care. to
Well, you're
change it.
grandfathered, so.
Well, I know, but, I mean, the thing is, like, for one thing, they're inordinately expensive to install. So,
Yes, they are.
we had ours installed, we've got the 24 kilowatt Generac. We had ours installed, the spring following Snowmageddon. And, just to kind of, for historical perspective, I looked at getting one in '08, the year after we moved in, and I looked at those specs that I had, I found them, compared to the specs on the new one. The new one is half the size and almost 2/3 quieter. So I was kind of glad we waited. In the 2 years that we've had it, other than a few intermittent, like 30-minute, segments, it wasn't until about a week ago, or whenever that storm hit, that it ran from 5:30 in the morning till 10:30 at night. And I don't know, my neighbor hooked up a little portable one, and his was louder than mine was. So I think it's, to me, the difficulty in trying to draft a ordinance that somehow would control what you do is, number one, like the master bedrooms, different homes are not always gonna be right up next to where the generator is. I don't know how staff would ever figure out how to enforce something depending on, you know, all those kind of variables. And then the other thing too is that, you know, there's certain logistical problems with having them. I mean, we were lucky because our gas meter, our smart meter, and our fuse boxes were all at the exact same location of the house. But I've had plenty of friends look at getting one, but like the gas lines, all the gas meters all the way over there, so they've got to run gas line, you know, 60 feet, and that's just, it's just too expensive. So I'm not sure, other than, you know, this one individual that's concerned about it, I'm not really sure that it's a problem. So I don't want to run around being a hammer looking for a nail.
Ramesh?
I agree with Councilmember Walker. If it is one person that is complaining, I think we should probably wait till we address it.
The only thing I'll sort of add, I'm not in favor of looking to do anything different, but the only thing I would add is, unfortunately, they kick on in abnormal times to begin with. It's a not normalized environment when they are on, and I get it. I would probably hate a lawnmower outside my bedroom window, but I also hate it when I don't have electricity for 12 hours also. So I just think, I don't know that we need to try to thread a needle with some regulation for a situation that's sort of at an abnormal time when they even operate.
So we did like Jim did after Stormageddon. We went out and bought one. Well, I didn't buy a permanent one. I bought a temporary one. Well, there's no way that our code would apply to what I bought.
Mm-hmm. But
It's-
yours
it's
is probably
affordable.
louder.
Oh, yeah. It's, I measured it at 75 dB from my street, not
Oh, really?
10 or 20 feet away from the street, and I had it sitting outside our garage, so it was probably 35 feet away.
Yeah, and it's still 75.
Yeah, and sound attenuates 6 dB every time you double the distance, so it's a 70, anyway.
If I can add to that. So the backup generators, their motors are designed to be inside that housing, and that housing, that enclosure already comes with some sound baffling. The backup generators, little portable ones, 99% of those are actually motorcycle engines. That's why you'll see the manufacturers such as Yamaha, Suzuki, you recognize the names from motorcycles and dirt bikes.
Well, mine was, I actually bought a Generac, and it's a 10 kilowatt.
nice.
So it's about half the size of the one Jim has, but it's probably twice as noisy. So, Bijou?
Yeah, can you please remind us what is the existing ordinance today?
Right now, they're treated just as any other residential equipment. So the condensing unit for your HVAC system, pool equipment, anything like that. It has to be in either the side or rear yard, and it has to be screened from view from a public way. So if somebody's side yard faces a major street, well, even in the side yard or in the backyard, under those circumstances, they got a wrought iron fence, they'd have to put in some form of screening for the generator. Aside from that, nothing.
And we don't have, our current ordinances don't provide for location for equipment like a swimming pool equipment. My next door neighbor put in a swimming pool equipment, put the pump and filter literally 10 feet from our bedroom window, and I was freaking out. The stuff is so quiet, we never even hear it. So anyway.
So the ask is to change the location where this will be installed?
Well, so there's a lot of different options, but it ultimately comes down to pursuing and possibilities of mitigating the sound.
Mark?
You know, there's more than just comfort involved with, you know, having a generator. I mean, there are people who have oxygen generators and they need those to breathe. And there's people who have home dialysis. Now, I don't know how many people in Coppell do, but I imagine it's more than, probably more than the people that have generators. And those people are just kind of, you know, running, you know, rolling the dice that they're not going to be in trouble. But the only thing I could think we ought to consider is, they classify the gen sets as an open set or an enclosed set. And open sets are more like the ones that are movable, like you have, Wes, but they do make them that are open and, standby generators. And they're typically gas powered, and they're super loud. And those would be the only ones we could really affect code-wise. But like you said, we're not gonna be able to do a portable gen like you have. So,
Even though it weighs 300 pounds.
yeah, so it's not real portable.
So it'll be hard to enforce, right? Where the location.
It'd be, mine resides inside my house away from site. I've owned it for 4 years now, and I've used it once, which was 2 weeks ago, for an hour. So yeah, it'd be almost impossible to enforce. The idea about requiring a permanent one to be an enclosed is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I just don't think you want an open gen set because they're like 125 decibels. But I think people are not inclined to put that in on their property because they know how much noise it's gonna make.
It'll affect them just as much
Yeah,
as it'll affect
exactly,
their neighbors.
because it'd be closer to their house.
And they're gonna weather much quicker, Jim.
But it sounds like that would already violate the ordinance we have, if we have a noise level.
Well, if these are portable generators, then we have nothing.
No, if it was a permanent standby that was an open.
I have not seen one come through in permitting.
Yeah.
All of them are enclosed. It's either Kohler or Generac.
Yeah, and those are the big players, and I just don't think any people are looking at, there is a cost savings to have the gasoline versus the natural gas, but I don't think anybody's ever gonna really wanna pull a permit for that, so I don't think we need to exclude them. Now, if we saw a big run on them, I don't know, maybe we would.
Well, out of morbid curiosity, the one that I used for an example of the before and after with the enclosure around it, we looked up the pricing for the enclosure. After taxes, about $3,000, and that does not include assembly. So if you're already dropping $10,000 for a generator install, and a third of that cost gets added on just to put a baffle house around it, you're looking at anywhere from possibly $14,000, $15,000 just to put an enclosure around it.
So I've heard about noise abatement kits for the generators, and I was assuming that they were just talking about an extended, larger muffler.
Well, Generac does have an option of additional mufflers that you can purchase to try and help mitigate sound. But when it comes to actual enclosures, Generac does not manufacture them, neither does Kohler. It's all third party. And they went to the trouble of getting their stuff listed through the UL. Just like you buy a lamp and it has the sticker on the cord, says UL, and it gives a number. Same thing.
So I'm hearing we're gonna stay status quo.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right, the time is 7:22 p.m. We're at the end of work session, and we will convene into regular session of the Coppell City Council at 7:30.
It's being on time.
Biju over there.
Yeah.
Mark.
Mark,
What time did you tell them to start?
7:30. Well, he's young. It shouldn't take him that long.
No, you're, I got him. No, all is good. Y'all are such talkers. Where did Don and Kim go?
He didn't leave.
Huh?
Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 7:31 p.m. We're here for the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, and we've already called the meeting to order. Our first item of business is the invocation, which is going to be given by Andrea Soka with the Allies Interface Group. Andrea?
Thank you. I'm sharing a prayer for our country that includes our elected leaders, and this is from the Jewish faith. Let me put my... Our God and God of our ancestors, grant to our country the will and wherewithal to fulfill its calling to justice, liberty, and equality. May each of us fulfill our responsibilities of citizenship with care, generosity, and gratitude, ever conscious of the extraordinary blessing of freedom, ever mindful of our duties to one another. Bless those who volunteer to labor on behalf of us all. May they find the strength and courage to complete their tasks and fulfill their dreams. May our judges, elected leaders, and all who hold public office exercise their responsibilities with wisdom, fairness, and justice for all. Fill them with love and kindness, and bless them that they may walk with integrity on the paths of peace and righteousness. Creator and protector of all, watch over our armed forces and all those entrusted with our safety as they daily put their lives at risk to protect us and our freedoms. Be with them in times of danger. Give them courage to act with honor and dignity, as well as the insight to do what is right in your eyes. Fill all of us with the gifts of love and courage, that we may create a world that reflects your glory. May we each respond to the charge. For what does Adonai, that's God in Hebrew, demand of you, but to act justly, to love with kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. May the one who brings peace on high bring peace and prosperity to our world and keep us in safety. Amen.
Thank you. Now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, item number 6 is our citizens' appearances, and as a reminder, any persons wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance or the public hearings must sign the appropriate register outside the council chambers and list your residence address. Persons wishing to speak, our presentations may be made for 2 minutes each. An individual speaker time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberation from the city council due to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the city secretary or mayor will cut in and make the request the city council if they would like to extend the speaker's time for an additional 2 minutes. We do have 3 people that have signed up to speak tonight. First on the list, and I'm I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the handwriting, but I believe the last name is Farley. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Nafisa Shakira Farley, and yes, my handwriting is not that good. And I live at 780 Crestview Court. And I may need a little bit over 2 minutes, just so you know, but I have practiced and practiced to try to get it in the 2 minutes, so.
We appreciate that.
Okay, and so second part is a little emotional, so please bear with me. So I am coming before you today about Article 8-3, Section 6 and 7. Which does not allow for truck drivers to park just their truck on residential property, even though there is a parking pad or ample parking for it. The city article says nothing over 1.5 tons can park, but I'm asking for the city council and the mayor to look at the article and see if we can't come up with maybe like a permit system to allow our truck drivers who live in Coppell to have a safe and affordable place to park that is out of the way, and also generate revenue for the city. My next part is the city code violation system that we have, which is definitely needed. By the way, I'm not saying it's not needed. But my husband and I have been targeted and harassed by a person who does not live in our alley, who continuously makes false reports about us parking our truck behind our home in our driveway. Yes, we were in the beginning, we did not know it was against city code. And then once it was reported, the city code team, which is amazing, has worked with us to help my husband and I find a place to park that was safe and affordable. But in the city of Coppell, there is no place to park. And so they gave us some time to find a spot, but this person kept reporting, even making false reports, emailing not only the city council, but you, the mayor, on the reports. I don't know who the person is because they have the safety of being anonymous to me, so I don't know who it is. 90% of the time, they did not post any pictures. They said we were storing trucks in our backyard, which we can't do. They said that we were doing a lot of different things that we were not. I have no way of defending myself other than coming here and being on record that my husband and I are very responsible citizens. He is not parking the truck on our parking pad at this point. We find all kinds of different places to do it. But having this article reviewed to see perhaps maybe if we can park it elsewhere.
Excuse me, counsel? Continue on.
Okay, thank you. I do say that this person is targeting us because my husband is African American and I am Arab American, and I say this because there are several neighbors in my neighborhood who park their RVs, which weigh more than his truck, on their property, which I think is fine. Also, I have several neighbors whose grass is like 4 foot tall that never gets cut, nothing never happens to it. But for some reason, this person has chosen to target us. They did not target us for the first 8 months that we lived there until they found out my husband was African American. And it continues and continues. Even on Easter, they were mad that my husband was home on Easter. Easter, Resurrection Day. They would not let my husband be home because they're so offended by him. And I needed to stop. And Mayor, I know this person has emailed you personally because I actually have the records that show it. I'm asking you to ask them to leave us alone. The truck's not there, but they're gonna find something else, and they will not stop until they find a way to get us out. And they're not getting us out because we love Coppell. We love it. So just a review of the article, and also to find a way with the reporting system when it becomes a harassment, if we can find a way to get the person to stop. Because once the city code violation crew is working with us, that should be enough. And they should not be allowed to continue the harassment. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments tonight. Our second speaker is Josiah Hawkins.
Hello, my name is Josiah Hawkins. I live at 474 Harris here in Coppell. And I'd like to respectfully request that the City Council ensure that the Coppell City Police Department patrol the neighborhood because there are individuals who are speeding through the neighborhood and not stopping at stop signs. And I think this poses a safety challenge. We've lived in the town for a little over 2 years. We live at the corner of Bethel School Road and Harris Street. and people speed through there and don't stop at that intersection. And we have children, and there are other young children in the neighborhood, and I don't think it's safe for my boys to ride their bikes in the street. I think it's unsafe because nobody abides by the laws. And my impression is, and I've seen folks, I think they're cutting through the neighborhood en route to the other side, perhaps to work at the Postal Service or Kroger or the big Amazon facilities, and speeding through there and not stopping at the intersection. I think there's been a general breakdown too, where workmen don't stop, and perhaps some of the people that live in the community as well. And I think this poses a challenge, and I'd like to respectfully ask that you have a police presence there to maybe enforce the existing laws to ensure safety. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Our third speaker and last on my list is Mr. Jeff Moses.
My name is Jeff Moses. My address is 204 Wilshire Drive in Coppell. I just wanted to address the council to try to get a clarification. I believe it's section 9-13-1, I believe, is regarding noise ordinance. I live on the back. The River Chase Golf Course backs up to my address. And I've had a problem, and I've called the city and different people, talked to them over the course. This has been going on for years, but basically they seem to have no restrictions on what time they mow or do maintenance work on the golf course. This morning it was 8 minutes after 6. They've been up as early as 10 minutes after 5. I've lived there for 21 years, and probably for the last, I'm just going to say 5 years, even before COVID, this was a problem. I've talked to different people in the city, and there seems to be a little vagueness regarding what they can and can't do. But nobody in my, of all the people that live in my neighborhood, nobody has a lawn crew that starts before 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. But for some reason, in the front of my house, nobody starts from before 7 or 8 o'clock. But behind my house, they can start whenever they want and do whatever they want. They've actually had a gas-powered leaf blower going as early as 10 minutes after 5. So I'm just trying to get a clarification because I've talked to code compliance, and they said it's not really a code issue. I've talked to the police, and they said, well, yes, it's a noise issue, but there seems to be some vagueness about what they can and cannot do. So I'm just asking for some clarification. 4 days out of the week, I don't have a time that I have to get up and be to work. But basically every morning for I'm going to say more than 5 years, I've been woke up long before 7 o'clock in the morning. And once again, this morning it was 8 minutes after 6. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time tonight. All right, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. This agenda is routine in nature and is generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council actions. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. Council, do you have any questions or comments or care to pull a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I will accept a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve a consent agenda items A through C.
Thank you very much, and seconded by Councilmember Walker. All in favor?
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Premkumar, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor. Motion carries.
Item number 8 on the agenda is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing and remind that any persons wishing to speak during this public hearing must sign the register outside the council chambers and list your address. Speakers will be called in the order that you signed up. We have nobody signed up to speak at this point, so I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Steer and ask him to read the item into the record.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is a public hearing to consider approval of a zoning change request from PD 297R LI to PD 297R2 LI to approve a new detailed site plan to add a canopy structure with an attached sign within the required front yard setback, and to add a monument sign, a canopy at the northern entry, and mechanical equipment for an office warehouse building on 9.01 acres of property located at 1010 West Sandy Lake Road at the request of Well Built, Inc., being represented by Half Associates. So in November 2021, a larger zoning change request was approved. A component of that zoning change was for a detailed site plan for this office warehouse building on 9.01 acres of land. And also, they requested an amendment to the 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan from Freeway Special District to Industrial Special District. As you can see, the building has already been constructed and is occupied by Well Built. So this is a very simple request, but because it involves a setback encroachment and an addition of an attached sign to a canopy, we could not process the request administratively. The first of the items I'll go through with you is the front yard setback PD condition located on the Sandy Lake Road entrance. Specifically, this request is to allow a porte-cochere or canopy to encroach into the required 60-foot front yard setback. It's proposed to be set back approximately 34 feet from the West Sandy Lake Road right-of-way. This will be located just outside of the TP&L electric easement that runs parallel to Sandy Lake. Here are the existing building elevations and the proposed daytime elevations of the porte-cochere and the night elevations. They are also proposing attached signage on the west elevation. This is proposed to serve as a drop-off area for clients coming from out of town and from the airport, and really enhances the entry of the office warehouse building. There's mechanical equipment proposed on the east side of the building dock area. This is proposed to be screened with solid metal enclosures. Speed humps are proposed to be located in the drive aisle west of and in front of the building to prevent cut-through traffic from Sandy Lake to 121. These have been reviewed and are acceptable to our fire department. A small building canopy and signage are proposed at the northwest corner of the building. The canopy is shown in dark gray on the left image, and here are the existing and proposed elevations and the nighttime elevations. All materials are compatible with and complement the existing building. A 60-square-foot monument sign is proposed to be located on the State Highway 121 frontage, and this meets the requirements of the sign section of the zoning ordinance, and dwarf wax myrtles are proposed at the base. We sent out 6 notices within 200 feet, 2 courtesy notices within 800 feet, and we didn't have any responses in favor or opposition of the proposal. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously of the request, subject to the following PD conditions. 1, that the front yard setback on West Sandy Lake Road shall be reduced to 34 feet at the proposed porte-cochere at the southwest building entry. And 2, the attached signage shall be allowed on the porte-cochere. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is in the audience as well.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Steer? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Steer, for that presentation. This is awfully small ball, but we're asking to relocate that tree, and that's not always successful after it's relocated. Wouldn't it be easier just to ask them to plant a new tree instead of taking the risk that we end up with a dead tree that anyways?
Yeah, I think the tree is fairly new, so it hasn't grown.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be that difficult to move that one.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, does the applicant have anything to say? Not that you have to. All right, well, I see no questions coming this direction. Council, based on the silence, I'll be willing to accept a motion. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve item number 8 with conditions.
Thank you, and seconded by Councilmember Matthews. All in favor?
Walker, Carroll, Nevels, Premkumar, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 9 is the city manager's report, project updates, future agendas, and direction from our work session. Mr. Land.
Mayor, thank you. You may repeat what I'm about ready to say, but just as a reminder, we do not have a second meeting in the month of June, just as a reminder for council. Just some project updates, South Belt Line. Again, the contractors continue to work on punch list items. That's why you see them out there. DART is continuing to work on franchise relocations at Freeport and the storm drain installation across Freeport. Woodhurst, the contractor, is continuing to install utilities and pour paving. The Andy Brown Park West Stream Bank repair. If you've noticed, the temporary repair is complete and a temporary fence around the trail has been installed. And for Fire Station number 5, the contractor began site work this past week. Just as an update on our storm debris pickup, Crowder Gulf has, of yesterday evening, had picked up about 25% of the resident storm debris. Currently, they're operating with 2 trucks. We all get a smile out of the response by the community about being excited to see a claw coming down their street. So it's pretty funny. One truck is operating from an east to west direction. The other is operating from a south to north. The amount of debris is actually higher than they initially estimated. Just to put in perspective, each truck is collecting slightly more than 7 tons per day. They start at 7 a.m. and finish at 6:30. Based on the volume of debris, we identified that without additional resources, this effort is going to take much longer than the end of the month. We have been following behind the trucks at times just to check and see what's going on, why the process and progress is being made. So we ask again emphatically, cars need to be placed away from the debris. If it's parked in front of the debris, the claw will not pick up the debris. And there are folks who have called us to ask us, well, what day is the debris going to be picked up? We cannot provide that to you. The best answer is don't park your car in front of the debris. That way that gives assurance that it'll get picked up. Also, one of the things about the debris, if you have it in, I'm going to use the term smaller clumps, the claw, if you ever do get to see it in operation, actually works better with larger gatherings, if you will, of the debris. So if you could maybe combine some of those smaller clumps to make them into a little bit larger clumps, that will help the process as well. Another thing that is happening is as the trucks are going by and picking up the debris in the neighborhoods that they've picked up so far, there is backfilling going on. So debris is getting put back out after we are already through a particular neighborhood. So that is a little bit problematic because it's going to be a long time before we get back to picking that up. So if it's, again, in small enough debris, I have to tell you, please take it back to the alley bundled up, 40 pounds, 4 feet long. Another thing that's happening is, which is, again, perfectly fine given that the storm happened, and we know that there are a lot of pears out there, that Bradford pears, but there's a lot of green trees, if you will, that are being cut and put out, which is also increasing the volume. So people are taking advantage of this time frame, which is fine, to reduce some of the exposure to their homes for some of these trees that weren't necessarily impacted by the storm, but since the initial assessment, that volume has also increased. So it's just turning out to be a larger and larger project as we go through this. I was informed this evening that we are working with Crowder. I believe a 3rd truck is going to be coming in, which is going to help tremendously. The other thing is with Crowder is their trucks are larger than Republic. So one of the reasons why we've held off on Republic because one, Republic only has 1 truck, it's a smaller truck, and it can't haul as much. So it's, while the cost is there for us to have Crowder, it's much more efficient and will happen in a more timely fashion. We are also considering some ways to reduce the amount of time that Crowder is actually not on the streets picking up waste in town. So we're identifying possible locations for them to be able to put the debris and us to do some chipping. So we're still evaluating that process, but it looks like that's something that we're going to try to do. For the public's knowledge, for 5 days worth of Crowder picking up waste, picking up solid, I don't want to say solid waste, picking up debris, it's $36,000. So they are going on their second set of 5 days. We can see them lasting through the end of the month at this point. So Council, I will be sending out an update with that here shortly, and we'll be addressing this through the July 9th council meeting. We appreciate the residents that have been patient with us. I debated whether or not to say this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Our staff is doing the absolute best that they can do. And our residents generally have been extremely patient and gracious with us. There are some, though, that are calling that are downright ugly and rude and nasty. And so we have said to the staff, you don't have to call those folks back. So if you get a complaint that we haven't called someone back, I apologize in advance. But our staff has enough on their table to deal with, and in serving this community. And like I said, it's a handful, but it's just very disappointing, to say the least. And so we appreciate the council's continued support, the community's continued support. We are working to get this picked up as quickly as possible. It's just a slow process. And putting the debris, the large debris, between the curb and the sidewalk is essential in order to have success in this. Because that claw, we have instructed Crowder not to put that claw on the other side towards the residents of the sidewalk, because that is private property. And that's a big piece of machinery that's operating, and it could cause damage. And so that is the reason why we're asking you to put it out towards the curb, because we don't want to damage your property. So, Mayor, that concludes my report.
That was a mouthful. Thank you, on behalf of the council and the city, thank you for expediting the cleanup process. I don't think you're going to have any complaints from anybody about that. So thank you. Item number 10 is mayor and council reports on recent and upcoming events. We've got a big party coming up. It's called Party in the Park, which is going to be on Saturday, June 29th in Andy Brown Park East. Starting time will be 6 p.m. And then to celebrate the Independence Day, the 4th of July parade, we'll be having our parade down Parkway on July 4th, starting at 9 a.m. The Independence Day parade will begin at Samuel Boulevard and Sandy Lake Road and travel north on Samuel to Parkway, then head west and terminate at Town Center. We had good news from via the Coppell Arts Center. We've once been nominated by the Dallas Morning News as best in the DFW in multiple categories. You can get more information and cast your vote by going to the coppellartscenter.org. This morning I attended the Metroplex Mayors Association meeting, and the city of Dallas presented a report on their homeless situation. The CEO of DART, Nadine Lee, was also there addressing what they're doing to mitigate the migration of homeless from Dallas as DART continues to expand. I was not aware that Dallas has over 400 encampments in their city limits. And so they're taking a very close look at what they can do. The mayor of Carrollton, Mayor Babick, and I both volunteered to act in an advisory role for the outlying cities, and I look forward to working with the mayor on seeing what we can do to mitigate any type of homeless migration from downtown Dallas to our community as DART begins to roll out. And by the way, the expected date of that was early 26. So we're looking at about a year and a half away. Item number 11 is public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. Council, any public service announcements? Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to City Manager Mike Land for his comments about how hard the staff's been working. I wanted to especially shout out our Community Development Department. They have been working tirelessly with all the trash pickup efforts and all the delays and things like that. I wanted to call out Louis Rahil for specifically addressing dozens of citizens' specific concerns that they're having with their routes. I've received a ton of positive feedback because of his direct actions and the entire department and staff there. So I just wanted to give those guys some special recognition. They are the unsung heroes of this community that make a lot of good things happen. I think I've heard it as the Department of No, sometimes called, but they do so many great things for this community, and they don't get the praise that they deserve. So I just wanted to make sure we gave them special recognition.
Thank you. Any other public service announcements? Seeing none, there was no necessary action from executive session. So therefore, being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 8:01 p.m.